Today we have a crazy story of an entitled parent who isn't afraid of sharing their illness with anybody they can spread it to. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, my dad calls me names and yells at me when he's drunk. I had enough and exploded back, but my mom and sisters looked at me like I needed mental help. Where do I even start? I'm crying as I write this. I definitely need mental help because I'm emotionally unstable and end up in short-tempered outbursts if I feel like I'm being targeted. I don't like to be bothered. I like to be free and without people telling me what I should do. I used to be different. I used to be a total pushover. I gave in to people and things and was never angry and cried myself to sleep. But at one point, I had enough. This was a few years back. I started becoming defensive of myself. It's like by exploding at someone or projecting my anger on the person getting angry at me or accusing me of things, I get to be peaceful or let things out. My dad, ever since I was little, didn't give me enough love. I always feel neglected in my family. I'm the oldest kid, so things are never in my favor because I'm the first to go through things. Studies, adolescence, instability in decision making, little fights where I'm on the losing end always because I don't have anyone to support me, siblings taking advantage of that loophole when I'm not being favored, etc. I have no one on my side. I don't think I've ever felt loved in my family. I was constantly restricted. I once got 9 out of 10 on a test paper, mock, and I was so afraid to bring it back home that I threw the test paper away and pretended like I got 10. It's just a single-digit difference, but I was overwhelmed. Yesterday and even today morning, Dad keeps yelling at me and calling me names when he's drunk. My mom initially said he won't remember a thing he says when he wakes up, but no, he is acting like it. He does this every time. And the one time I yell back because my heart couldn't take it, suddenly I'm the bad guy. It was bad. I started name-calling my own dad out of anger. But somehow I feel both better and like a reflection of him, which I hate. I don't know why he's always so angry at me. He says I'm worthless. He calls me names and says things I don't think my friends around my age have to listen to. He always talks about how he gave me food, shelter, and water to live and how I'm doing nothing to give it all back to him. He talks about how I bring nothing to the table when I'm still just a student and studying. He talks about how much fees he paid for school and I'm still useless. He says I don't pay the rent for the apartment or the clothes or things he buys, so why am I even living with them? Both my parents have mentioned that they regret having me. Like, did I ever ask to be born? Did I ever? I don't want to be your child either. I'm so jealous. I see people with perfectly sound families and how they all get along despite the small disagreements. But I'm always the bad guy in these situations. My mom says I need mental help and that she wouldn't let me say anything bad about her husband. Then what about me? Who am I to her? She says that I'm very loud when angry and need to calm down. How else am I supposed to let this heat off my chest? You triggered me first and expect me to be calm? How? Even my sisters don't care. They never did. No one in this family is normal. No one is loving or caring. I hate this place so much. I don't even feel like studying or doing anything productive because of them. It's like I'm trapped in this place of instability. I have no one to show my good results to or share my success. My family will be happy about my results, not me. Who am I even studying for? Is there even a need for that? I could just disappear tomorrow and things will be peaceful. If I be productive, it's like I'm doing it for them and not myself. I hate how I think. The only thought that helps me counter this is I'll be free if I study. I can get a job, I can move out, and I don't need to see their faces. There is really no warmth in this place. Everything is so neglectful. I cared too much about people years back, but not anymore. I've become more apathetic to things. I hate how this place treats me and makes me feel. My family decided they won't be talking to me because I told them I like to be free, and it hurts so bad. Am I not human too? How long can I last without socializing? It's more peaceful when no one's bothering me, but that isn't the solution to what you guys are doing? Like, what am I even supposed to do at this point? It's so sad. I want to share this with a friend or anyone, but I don't have anyone I trust. It hurts so much. So hopefully it doesn't sound rude or insensitive, but OP really could use some assistance. I think it actually goes without saying, but in a situation like this, there's a lot of trauma going on here. I feel like therapy and assistance in a situation like this is almost a must, even if unfortunately it comes a little bit further along down the road. I just feel like if I were in OP's position, I feel like the main goal for me would just be unfortunately trying to learn what works the best around these people, what kind of ends up with you getting the least amount of grief, and then just working as hard as you can to get out of that situation. Anonymous0212 commented, "Sweetie, you do need mental help. You need help to recognize that your feelings and boundaries are valid because growing up with an abusive alcoholic freaks people up. Please get into therapy as soon as you possibly can, because children of alcoholics develop a specific personality pattern that's useful for surviving childhood, but is extremely dysfunctional and counterproductive for adult relationships. And this holding it in until you explode? Especially counterproductive. I've married not one, not two, but 3 men who were children of alcoholics. And believe me, you do not want your future wife and children to be subjected to you without therapy. And you know what? If your mother is willing to pay for it because she thinks you're going for some other reason, all the better." Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy crazy stories of entitled parents, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our next story is, "From loving mom to spiteful frenemy, how do I deal with a drastic personality change?" My 42, mom 71, has always been a very devoted, loving person who would do any sacrifice for her kids. She used to be kind and caring, but also a very anxious and stressed person. She's a stay-at-home mom. My brother, who's 7 years older than me, has 3 daughters. He lives 3 hours away from my mom, but despite this, my mom babysat my nieces for 18 years. Now he stopped asking my mom for help, but up until 3 years ago, he would call my mom constantly and asked her to go babysit my nieces because he had a dinner, tickets for football, etc. Sometimes my mom would travel in the morning, babysit during the night, and return home the next day. A 6-hour round trip. For 18 years, my brother went on many holidays with my sis, and they would just leave the children with my mom and dad. Kids would be youngest 2 years old, and they would be gone for as long as 3 weeks. One of my nieces has a disability which makes it too hard to take care of her. Epilepsy, autism, but they couldn't care less. They would just dump the kids and go, countless times a year. My sister-in-law would also get her parents to babysit, but far less time than my parents, who were always on call. Over the years, my parents even stopped going on holidays or making their own personal plans because my brother would dump the kids at their house or ask them to come to their house with no warning. Here's my issue. About 3 years ago, I had my first child, and I expected my parents to be devoted grandparents. I would never ask the same stuff my brother asked my mom, but I did hope my mom would take care of her grandchild every now and then and babysit occasionally. When my son was born, my mom and dad stayed with us at my house and helped take care of the baby. Both my parents visited us frequently for a year. I also live 3 hours away. First problem, after my son turned 2, the visits decreased to almost 0. If I ask my mom to come, she says she can't, no matter the motive. Usually one of us is very sick and we need help with my son. Second problem, the other change I saw in my mom was, when we visit my parents, my mom tried to be as little involved as possible. She will take all morning to do a simple lunch. She'll start cooking at 9 a.m., so she's always busy and can never spend time with my son. It breaks my heart because I know she's doing it on purpose. It's a big house, and if my son is in the kitchen, she'll go to the basement. If I take my son to the basement, she'll say she's too hot and go upstairs. She always has an excuse to either go out, be in a different room, or be extremely busy. Third problem, initially she had no problem in letting my son bond with his grandfather. She would actually encourage my dad to be with my son, so she didn't have to. She would tell family and friends that my son had a big bond with my dad and that he wanted nothing to do with her. But her new plan is to stop my dad from having a bond with my son because she doesn't want any of them to babysit my child. Every day, she makes sure my dad is very busy. We're here at my parents' house now. We were planning to stay here for 2 weeks so my son could bond with them, and so me and my husband could also go to the cinema, go to a restaurant or two. We have no other help or opportunities to do this during the year. This was our only chance, but she won't let us. She resents me for sleeping until a bit later, for going out for a walk, even if I take my son. She's relentless in her attacks. She hates me for everything I am and always talks to me in a very angry way. As for my son, he's an adorable toddler, but he takes time to warm up to people. If you give him some attention and play with him, he will always feel comfortable and happy with you. But if you don't, he will cry if I or my husband leave. My mom's actions have led to my son never wanting to be with her. She won't feed him, bathe him, change his diaper. She won't take him for a walk. She won't join us for a walk. She wants total detachment from him. And now she's getting my dad to do the same. How do I deal with this heartbreak? I feel like I've lost my mom while she's still alive. Help! I don't know if I'm going to come across as kind of rude here, but honestly, it sounds to me like OP should just kind of accept, for whatever reason, they don't want to attach to your kids, they don't want to help you out. I mean, I get it, it feels unfair considering what all they do, but how much waffling about it can you do before you accept that you just kind of have to do it on your own? Short of confronting them and asking why don't they care and do more for your kids, which I think is just going to be messy and ultimately unproductive. Desert Dame commented, "She's in her 70s and done with children. She doesn't want to get attached to yours. She got used and abused by your brother. Alas, you take the brunt of it. Accept that and match her energy." Also, it is possible when the kid's older, say around 4 or 5, she'll be more amenable to a relationship as long as she doesn't do any babysitting. Bloody Sock Puppet added, "Yes, this is the way. If you can rely on your partner's parents, maybe that would provide a break? Or even take half the time for a break, work for half to pay for a babysitter for the other week? Between that and you being able to imminently take advantage of children's clubs when he's a bit older, you can probably find some time that doesn't rely on other people. I get why she'd be reticent after your brother, and that's her choice. As would leaving any help they might require when they get even older to your brother, and that's a very similar choice. I would disagree about letting her become more amenable. Your brother's child is older by enough of a margin that there won't be any jealousy from the kid. Just accept that they're not those sort of grandparents, that it's not possible to visit them without a babysitter or for such a length of time. Use your time better. Our next story is, I, 24-year-old female, want to move out and cut ties with my mother, 53-year-old female. I'm 24 and a college student and really have no time to be finding a job. I have so many exams to finish and classes to attend. My dream is to become a concept artist and to work in 3D. Drawing and designing characters and creatures is something I love doing. I've been suffering from depression and have been in a situation where I could barely eat one small meal a day. But the starvation is not due to me not wanting or being able to eat. It's due to us not having any food in the fridge. I had a very rough childhood, and my mother used to hurt me to the point of passing out and verbally abuse me on the regular, letting me go to sleep teary-eyed with cuts and bruises all over my body. My father is a coward who would ignore all of this and pretend like those things never happened. To this day, my mother loves to barge into my room to call me useless and keeps telling me to get a job so I could be useful for once. She keeps saying how I have no future, that I'm a disgusting pig and useless like my dad, and that I will never be able to live on my own or accomplish anything. She quit her job 5 years ago to care for my sick grandparents. To be fair, she didn't do any work for almost 10 years prior to her quitting. I have no idea how her boss allowed that, but whatever. She said that she'll find a job at some point in the future. But in reality, she doesn't really give a crap about jobs and helping the family out. She made up an excuse as to why she can't work, and it's supposedly due to her horrible agoraphobia. I know full well she does not have any condition that makes her terrified of going outside. Recently, her uncle took us to a restaurant full of people and she seemed to have a good time. She goes to the nearby shopping mall almost every week, and that mall in particular tends to be jam-packed with people. The little money we have, she spends on stupid freaking sneakers and expensive accessories, perfumes, bags, and glasses to appear rich and sophisticated to others. People who could not care less anyways. We are barely middle class in a poor country and, of course, don't have a lot of money to begin with. How does she even have any cash to buy herself things then, you may ask? Well, after my grandparents died, she inherited some of the money and property they left her and her sister. I beg her almost daily to take her money and buy us some food because we are starving, but she keeps making up excuses to not do that and says things like, "Some other time, don't you worry." It pains me that I have to go to my boyfriend's to be able to have a full stomach. I'm tired of the pain in my belly and I'm severely underweight and have been for 24 years. My father has a job with a ridiculously low salary and he uses that money to pay the bills. The apartment my grandparents used to live in is rented out to some family friend. The rent money is then split in half. One half goes to my aunt and the other to my mother. Sometimes I do commissions and earn money to pay my phone bills, and that's the only time my mother sees me as useful and dares to ask me to give her the money I made. My dream is to finish college and to live together with my boyfriend far from my parents. I want to cut ties with my mother and start living life. I have no idea what to do. I feel stuck. The constant pressure from my mother is enough to drive me insane at times. The first step is to, of course, finish college. I'm nearing graduation, thankfully. But what then? Finding a job is next, obviously, but there's no amount of money you can earn from work that will make you financially stable here. Living in this country is not even living. It's more of a survival. I'm asking for help on how I should plan my future. Have you ever been in a similar situation? Please let me know what you did to save yourself from a life like this. Obviously, I don't know where OP actually lives. I think I would start researching if there's any kind of organizations or any kind of shelters or anything that might be willing to help people like you. The thing that does give me real pause here is OP saying that there's no amount of money you can earn from work that will make you financially stable here. My response would be, how does anybody survive in that area, and is it not worth trying to look for an area that might be a little bit more capable of supporting a life? Vegetable Cod 2340 commented, OP, I would start with maybe getting an internship or work study just. Those can lead to a full-time position. And even if it doesn't, it gets you work experience and you network with people that can help you. What you need is a mentor, someone in your desired field that can help guide you to the future you want. You can bounce ideas and thoughts off them. OP responded saying, thank you so much for your reply. I had a month-long internship last year, and I will have to try doing something like that again. I wasn't very happy with the position I chose, matte paint in Photoshop, but this time I'll aim for something better. I'll keep your advice in mind. Our next story is jealous of everyone that has a family. Hi everyone, I need a vent and any advice or comments are welcome. Let me explain. I've been without parental care since I was 16 and completely without family since I was 18. I have grandparents and many uncles, but to them, I don't exist like to my parents. Even though they still cause me harm with debts and inheritance issues, it seems like I'm not someone who deserves love or family. At 18, I found my dog and he became my family. I moved abroad and now I live in Germany. I finally met a really good person that he's my boyfriend after so many bad experiences. Unlike me, he has a large family where everyone takes care of each other. I always feel out of place and have the impression that I'm not liked because I'm very shy and not used to family gatherings. Here's my point. My partner has 2 older brothers and they each have wives and children, perfect German families. These wives have their own parents who love them and do many things together. I can't help but feel intense envy and jealousy when I see how others have such large families to celebrate birthdays, who care for each other, make plans, their life is way easy, etc. And I have no one, just hard levels in life. Somehow I feel bad because everyone celebrates their birthdays like a super party with many family happy for them, and I'm usually celebrating my birthday like a normal day. Right now, the 2 brothers with their wives, kids, grandparents, uncles are all on vacation with their respective families all together. Right now, I'm alone and unable to go on vacation because my boyfriend has borderline personality disorder, making it very difficult to make plans outside the home. I see their WhatsApp stories of them together at the beach with captions like, "Family is the best," or "My great family," and I can't stop crying, feeling like I'll never have anything like that, and my mother always said I'll be forever alone. I'm sorry if I sound like a bad person, I don't know how to control all these feelings. Obviously, I think a thing like therapy would be really beneficial for somebody like OP, but I think the important thing to focus on in a situation like this is knowing that you're not alone. That although you can see people who have a different situation, that doesn't mean that OP is this unique outcast shunned from the rest of society. That said, I can understand wholeheartedly to see something that you want, but just don't have or can't have. Desert Dame commented, you have a boyfriend who's not part of his family too. They're on vacation, he's at home with you and unable to leave because of mental issues? You have an impression you're not liked? Maybe it's because they don't know what to say to you. German families? Yeah, they have their unwritten rules. They tend to be strong-minded and very opinionated and very respectful of the rules. Yep, I'm German. You picked the wrong boyfriend. You need a guy who can help you navigate the situation and learn the ropes. Not a guy who hides in the apartment. You picked him because of your insecurities, so what you need is to go to therapy and learn how to be stronger and bolster your self-esteem. OP responded saying, hi. Sometimes I wonder if it's just my insecurity, but it feels they do a lot of things together and only include us for events like birthdays. My boyfriend told me that most likely they do it like that because of our mental problems and to not bother us, but it hurts. His mother is somewhat involved but doesn't want to face the fact that her son has a significant problem. When we talk about it, she says there's nothing she can do because he's been this way his whole life. She also tries to avoid to stay alone with me if we go visit her and the father of my boyfriend, who is always in his room and never with us. Over the years, because of multiple traumas, I've developed social anxiety, so my interactions can sometimes be awkward. I try my best, but it's really challenging. I wish I could talk about topics like family, motherhood, and travel like they do, but I don't have those experiences. Sometimes I feel like they might be happier if I wasn't part of the family. Although it could just be my negativity, their kids/teenagers look at me oddly and barely speak to me or greet me, while they're very chatty with everyone else. I'm with my boyfriend of 8 years, and I feel out of place when I'm alone with them in the room without my boyfriend. Despite everything, he's a good guy, but his behavior is affecting my mental health and our future. Borderline personality disorder is quite difficult to handle. I love him, and for me it's quite difficult to break the only relationship I have. Thank you for your comments. This next story is, my parents make me feel worthless and I'm dreading going back to America. I'm currently in Japan, returning tomorrow, and I'm already feeling my life go back to the heck the more I talk to my parents. The stress train begins with my parents already making me feel like a failure when I'm just looking for support. I've sacrificed so much for them, but it's never enough. I was thinking of doing online classes to get a head start for next semester, but since I'm so close to graduation, there aren't many options left online for my advanced levels. So I asked my mom for assistance because she's a college advisor at a different school. Instead of actual help, she sent a belittling text. The texts went as such. I said, I think I could handle 2 more classes because most of the classes are online this semester and seem easy. Do you think you could help me find these classes online at different school? My advisor said they do not offer these online in the fall here. She replied, this is why I was trying to get you to do more hours the past 2 years, LOL. I replied, I did 15 hours every semester since I started school, but okay, never mind. Then mom left me on red. I understand I was rude, but I felt completely insulted by that. Will they ever understand what I've done to get where I am? I'm a recovered dyslexic with extreme ADHD, and being where I am should be a miracle, but it's never good enough. I went to community college to save money. It was free where I went, while they let my sister go straight to a 4-year school. I took 15 hours every semester, the minimum at my university is 9 hours, and also did winter and summer classes. My sister failed the same class 4 times and others, while I've never failed a class. I've had steady jobs and have never been fired. I'm currently working full-time at the university to save money. My sister just got fired from her 3rd job in 2 months. She can't make friends to find a roommate for college, so I offered for her to live with me, even though she's done terrible things to me, to help my parents save money. Despite all this, we're seen as equally bad, and I'm considered lazy for not doing more. I'm being held to a completely different standard, and it's making me realize that being here in Japan, with limited contact, has relieved my stress because I can use not contacting my family as a tangible excuse. I feel bad for feeling this way. This is my 2nd post here because I just needed a vent. Honestly, I think OP needs to listen to their own current feelings in Japan and try to apply that in general to the rest of their life when they're not in Japan. I think inviting your sister into the same living space is actually going to just make it more of a nightmare for OP. Bookworm Trisha commented, keep your sister out of your home. Do not let her in for a day or a week because you will never get her to leave after that. You need a safe place to retreat to, and keep out your parents also. Spend the next semester in your private apartment and the library and at friends. Tell them you're too busy with classes to visit your parents or have them at your place and too busy to answer the phone or texts. Answer once a day at most. Change your locks and forget to give them a key until graduation. After graduation, move far away. This next story is, guy steals car, wrecks it, gets his friends to steal it again, ended up totaling it. The guy in this story is my brother, who's been arrested and is currently serving a year in jail for this incident. He threw his daughter away and hasn't seen her in years because of drug addiction. He recently got out of rehab after being there for over a year. He moved in with my grandfather for about 3 months until my grandfather bought himself a new car. He had that car for 3 days before my brother relapsed, stole it, picked up his ex-wife, and went out on a bender with her, ended up wrecking the car into a tree, and EMS had to get him out. The car had been left there while my grandpa figured out how he was going to get his car out of the woods, as it was blocked in by trees and boulders. We have no idea how my brother managed to even get the car there in the first place. He was arrested that night, and after a few days, the car was gone. The cops found it totaled in a different location, and whoever stole it had also painted it black and removed the license plate. When the thief realized the car was freaked, they started beating it up with a 2x4. We think it was my brother's ex-wife, but there's no evidence apart from a phone that was found in the car. Now my grandpa is out a brand new car because my brother is a dip crap. Just had to tell someone. I think the only thing you can say is this is absolutely tragic, and I hope that the grandfather, for as much love as he clearly displayed having for his grandkid, learns it's time to cut them off. I mean, if you can't cut them off after they do that to you, then I feel like the grandfather has serious issues himself. Our next story is, whenever my dad is sick, he gets everyone in our family sick. Don't know what to do. Last year, my dad got the flu and he refused to quarantine himself, and then made us drive in the car with him with no AC. We all got the flu and it was a horrible experience. He didn't seem bothered by the fact that he got everyone sick. In 2022, he went to Europe for work, and when he came back, we asked him to quarantine because it was peak COVID. He said he didn't feel sick and refused to wear a mask, hugged all of us when he arrived, and then for the next 2 days touched everything in our house. He then tested positive for COVID. Luckily, no one got sick, but we fought with him because we asked him to take precautions and he refused to. Now, he's been feeling sick since Monday, and I asked him 5 times to get a COVID test and stay away from me because I was sick 2 weeks ago and I don't want to miss work again. I also have chronic health issues, so I don't need another illness on top of what I already have. Friday, he decides to inform me that he knew one of his coworkers has COVID and interacted with him days ago. He refused to quarantine and touched everything in the kitchen this last week. He spent hours with my mom and sister in the car, continued going to work, and even went to a Broadway show while feeling sick. He coughed everywhere because of his reflux and never covered his mouth. He wouldn't get the COVID test. He drove in my car when I asked him not to because I don't want contamination. Then today, he finally took the test and tested positive for COVID and was laughing about it. This whole week, I've tried to stay away from him, wash my hands, eat separately, and wore a mask while my whole family made fun of me. I am livid because I have a horrendous immune system, and I don't understand how hard it is for him to comprehend that I don't want to get sick. I'm quarantining myself because he refuses to. I'm starting to develop a fever and headache now, truly at a loss for how to deal with him. Sometimes he acknowledges that he should have been more careful, but then does it again. He told me he barely feels sick and doesn't understand that while he barely feels sick, I may get COVID and have much worse symptoms due to my health issues. Don't know what to do about him at this point. Honestly, it sounds to me like this guy is a lost cause here, has no consideration for anybody around them. I don't know if it's just part of the sweeping masks don't do anything kind of beliefs, or more likely, this guy actually just does not care. And as much as they may try to deny that and say that they do care, if they actually did, they would do something about it, and they just don't care. I don't actually feel all that bad, therefore I got me, good luck everyone else. Jellybean Sean 3648 commented, be blunt and honest maybe, but only if you're going to be able to accept those consequences. Failing to quarantine when you're contagious makes everyone around you sick. I'm disappointed that my health and well-being is not important to you, or whatever your truth is. I would say he's a disgusting jerk who gets sick as often as a toddler because he constantly acts like a toddler. Does he even wash his hands? But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy entitled parent story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.